I'm Andy Cook, Harvard Foodservice's resident restaurant consultant. In this video and subsequent follow-up videos, we're going to be capitalizing on everything that we've learned in the last few months and how we can apply it to today's business dynamic for our industry. One of the things that I love most about my job is that I get to go out and collaborate with such a broad variety of restaurateurs from all across the state and every culinary type and community that I can imagine. Well, most often these collaborations and conversations get started with someone's express need that I can perhaps apply any amount of expertise or insight to. Every time that I go out in the field, I learn something new from one of you operators. And the thing that really lights me up and keeps me interested and engaged is that I have an opportunity to play a carrier pigeon and to learn techniques and nuances of business and innovations that I see from across the state and from many of you operators. And I get to pass that on to other operators as we meet and collaborate in our engagements. And so what we'd like to accomplish today is to revisit some key topics that have been beneficial for a lot of operators in the state and to perhaps put some context into how this shutdown is different in a lot of fundamental ways as to what we experienced last spring. The tone that I like to set as I start to go through these slides is to embrace a philosophy of focusing on solutions. Now, I feel that when we are focused on a problem, that allows for one path and it's backwards. By pursuing solutions, we have many pathways forward. That said, I think it's worth recognizing that when we got this call out, even though we kind of saw it coming, that we were going into a new shutdown, it was almost like being that shelter dog that you reach to go pet too quickly and we kind of flinch. But once the initial shock wears off, I think that there's some key context points that we can draw into focus. This time is different because we're different. We have muscle memory. We have adaptation strategies. We've learned from our mistakes and from our successes, and we can capitalize on all of those experiences. Now, for some of us, this is almost like a second chance to get it right. And that's not to say that this isn't going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be different, but we're going to capitalize on everything that we've learned through these past several months. Now, we have collaborated with restaurateurs all across Washington, and we've implemented transformational innovations for almost every restaurant type. And we're going to start going over a number of those things. So let's establish some context first by comparing and contrasting the dynamics at play today versus the dynamics at play last spring when we went into our first lockdown. Now, like then, people are flooding grocery stores to fill their pantries and their freezers. I don't know about you, but I went to a Costco on Sunday morning before they opened to pick up a couple of staple items, and the parking lot was full, and there was a line around the building like it was a Beyonce concert. And today is Tuesday, and I went to a grocery store, and there was almost no one there. I think maybe that was a Vanilla Ice concert. As we go into this new lockdown phase, grocery stores are going to be at a 25% capacity. That wasn't at play last time. And so grocery stores are going to be less accessible. And so for some customers, takeout's still going to be an early need. But for others that manage to get through that Beyonce line at Costco, they may not be reaching out for those new flavors until their pantries and freezers start to empty in a week or so. And so for some, this could represent an opportunity. I'm going to be talking about a boutique market that you could transform your dining room into soon. Another way that things are different is because the people that we serve are different. Last time it was a shocking twist. It was a new experience that none of us had had before, and it was like building the car as we drove it. Well, now the car is built. We know the terrain. And so happily, last spring, people stood tall. They stepped up in support of the industry, and they're going to do it again. We just need to give them the opportunity. I have a personal philosophy. I call it my hospitality philosophy, and I believe that hospitality is exceeding our diners' expectations. And I believe that we will thrive as an industry if we can bend to their needs. But just like a flight attendant's going to tell you before you take off is when those breathing masks come down and you've got someone that's counting on you, you need to put your mask on first so that you can be strong and healthy enough to help them. And so let's get our house in order first and get ourselves on solid footing. So let's start in the middle and work our way out. And let's start with our menu adaptation. We want to have our menus to be right-sized and right-priced. And when I say right-sized, I mean the right number of items, but you also want to look at the most appropriate portioning. We need to make our gains by the inches and not the feet. So how do we right-size the menu in terms of what we're offering? What I recommend is to reference your point-of-sale data from March to May of 2020. This is going to help you identify what offerings resonated with most of your diners. Now, I also want you to take a look at September through November's data, and that's going to help identify your current popular dishes because the public is seasonal in their appetites. Now, getting your pricing appropriately dialed in, I think, is key. And I recognize that there's a lot of sensitivity towards raising your menu prices. You want to be very value conscious, and you don't want to make your customers and your diners feel like you're picking their pocket. But the cost of goods has been rising, and I think that you know better than I do how to appropriately handle that challenge. But what I really want to do is take this opportunity to give you permission to start accounting for your packaging costs. And you can do that by adding it into your pricing by item, or apply it by a flat rate to takeout and delivery. Now, I've seen a lot of people do this, and I am not aware of even one significant blowback on that strategy. Not to say that there hasn't been, but we're hospitality professionals and we can handle those circumstances as they arise. One opportunity that has caught fire over this past year are family meal kits, and to a smaller degree, boutique markets. There's a company based out of Chicago called Data Essentials, and Data Essentials is a research and data gathering organization that focuses on the food service industry. And they've done a tremendous service to us by continually running surveys and cost analysis and tracking trends so that we can be as competitive and as adaptive as possible through this pandemic. And what we've learned through that data, and this dials right up into the Northwest, are that meal kits that were portioned for 4 to 6 people have resonated with diners, not only during the last lockdown, but it's carried through into the open dining rooms that we were lucky enough to experience over the summer. Now, what kind of foods are people being the most attractive to? As you can see on the screen, we have comfort foods are huge. Whole meal offerings, build a whatever. You can build a pizza, build a burrito. In fact, some places that don't even serve pizza, don't even have a pizza oven, have been doing a pretty fair amount of business just producing make your own pizza kits. Kids love them. You just send them with the dough and all the different ingredients, and they can put that together as sort of a family activity. Another couple bigger surprises, or maybe surprises to me because, I don't know, I guess I just wasn't thinking of it, are multiple appetizer bundles. So people can have their own little happy hours, or some people just like to have a variety of snacks. Breakfast has been a surprising hit, even with takeout and delivery. I was surprised to see it, but waffles, eggs, and even Eggs Benedict have done very well as a takeout segment. And here's a cool little ditty that we noticed early on in the last lockdown, were that some restaurants were able to bypass their closed dining rooms and open them up and reorganize them as boutique markets. And this helped them control surplus of inventory, or even to tap into more specific needs of perishables. Now, and I think that there's opportunity here this time around because of how I mentioned before about grocery stores are going to be at 25% capacity, and they could potentially be less accessible than they were before. So by offering those perishable items that you may have in stock or available to you through Harbor Foodservice, you have an opportunity to use your dining room as a 25% capacity walk-through market. Now, radiating out from menus, you're also going to be wanting to look at what your hours are going to be, what sort of specials you're going to run, and all those other related things that we couldn't possibly cover every restaurant concept of this audience. You want to broadcast and make those changes across your digital storefront. Now, you may see on the screen in front of you that I've got an asterisk under digital storefront and online ordering platforms. I'm going to be doing some follow-up videos that really take a much deeper dive into the nuances of these. But for this video, we're just going to touch on the basics for the benefit of those of you who are pretty technologically minded and you're on top of your online presence, or you're already using your online ordering platform to a comfortable degree. When you've got these changes dialed into your mind, you want to update your website, you want to update those details on social media. You need to get into your Google My Business profile so that people that are searching for restaurants near me are seeing accurate information. If you're plugged into a third-party platform, you want to have those details plugged into that as well. And of course, you want your online ordering platform to reflect your menu hours and availabilities as well as specials. And If you haven't already, I highly, highly encourage you to start looking into online ordering and tune into the video that's going to follow this one. And now, this isn't Field of Dreams. Just by building it doesn't mean people are going to notice it. And so if you have followers, loyalty programs, or email lists, whatever it is, it's time to put your connecting channels to work. So start really plugging away at your social media following. Use that email list. I recommend MailChimp or Constant Contact as an affordable method of email communication or marketing. If you've got a loyalty program that is collecting dust, we dial into it, check into their website. I would bet that if you haven't looked at it in the past year, you probably see that whatever loyalty program you're subscribed to has got a lot of new innovations that you could be capitalizing on. And for those of you that are using online ordering, you have a customer database of everyone who has already expressed interest and given you permission to contact them. And so you should have their names, their phone numbers, and their email addresses. And you can use those email addresses to start communicating whatever your status might be, or your messaging, which we're going to get into soon. Or you can use it to do direct marketing. And while there's such a thing as overusing these things, there's more often the case they're being underused. And so I encourage you to use all the channels available to you to provide regular and repeated updates to your diners. The reason why I say that is people get their information from a few select areas. And so if you're communicating to them on a couple of different platforms, chances are excellent that they're only going to be seeing it on one. Even if it's a few different platforms that they're connected to, they're probably only going to see it on one, especially social media. When you post as a business page, you're lucky if you're reaching 10% of your followers. And so hitting a repetition on what's important to you or what you feel is important to them is going to be key. And we have a new opportunity that COVID has provided for us. It's shined a light behind the curtain of hospitality, and people have become more understanding, more knowledgeable about what it's like to operate a business like this, and it's inspired a lot of empathy. And so I'd like to share with you an example of messaging that's built around takeout, and I'll make this available to you to copy and paste and modify to your discretion, but it goes a little something like this. We look forward to seeing you soon, and thank you for your continued support of Name Your Restaurant and the other locally owned and operated restaurants like ours. You have a positive impact in our community every time you choose to order from Name Your Restaurant. We're going to miss serving you in the comfort of our dining room, but until then, we want you to know that when you order directly from us, 100% of your hard-earned dollars will go directly to the restaurant and its staff. What you may not know is that third-party delivery companies take a generous percentage commission from each order. But when you order directly from us, we invest those savings in what matter most to us: quality ingredients, our family of employees, and enriching this community. Now, I received a message similar to that, and I was inspired. I thought that it was brilliant. So I'd love to take credit for every word here, but it was inspired by the work of somebody else. And I encourage you to build on that as well. Make a message like this work for you. People will resonate to that. I have no doubt about it. And so I want to give you permission to come up with messaging like that. You don't have to follow my words. It doesn't even have to be about that topic, but talk to people that you trust, people that share your values, and really maybe use those relationships to help identify what your core principles are, what your goals are going to be through this, and then really give yourself permission to communicate that and show a little bit of vulnerability. I believe that the public at large will support you, and if they just know what you need. But again, it's not enough that you know what it is. It needs to be communicated. And so I gave you a number of different platforms that you could use to get that message out. But I also want you to keep this key consideration point in mind. Use your employees. Your employees are going to be the first and best line of communication and marketing. Those are the faces and personalities that represent your establishments, and mouth to mouth means so much more than screen to eyes. And so that essentially wraps up the core topics of this video. Coming up next, I'm going to be delivering you some videos that give you a deeper dive into online ordering. We're going to be unpacking the costly inefficiencies of telephone takeout. We're going to be exploring the avenues or the consideration points to help you identify what the appropriate online ordering service would be for your operations. and I'm going to be presenting a couple best-in-class providers and giving you a brief overview of their features and their pricing. The deep dive video after online ordering is going to be your digital storefront or your online presence, however you want to word it. And we're going to be looking into detailed yet accessible rundown of the action steps that you could be taking to update and optimize your online presence. A lot of that's going to focus around Google, but we're going to be talking about websites, social media, and getting your information updated across multiple different platforms that people are going to be connecting to you on. So if that is a topic that you feel like you may not have a full grasp of, we're going to run through the gamut of that. Again, if this is something that you think you got it, well, then you got it. Don't waste your time on that video, but I encourage you to still plug into the webinar, and you can start to hear dialogue from other operators and maybe pick up a few key innovations along the way. Speaking of webinars, after these videos are produced over these next few days, we have a series of webinars that are going to touch base on these again, and I invite you to keep your eye out through communications to find out how you can get plugged into those, or to get some of the key members of your staff to plug into those. And I believe that the extra value in that webinar environment is that we're going to have collaboration and discussion amongst you restaurant professionals. And so that's going to be a way of shortcutting that carrier pigeon opportunity that I had outlined at the beginning of this video. And I'm also going to be having more support on that call as well. I'm going to have my chef counterpart, Derek Boogie, to help provide his expertise when questions of the culinary start to come up. And there's going to be Nate Stromberg. Nate Stromberg is a colleague of mine at Harbor who is connected to many different aspects of your food service provider. And he heads up the Harbor Cares Initiative, which supports you as restaurants, the communities you serve, and the employees that you take care of. And so I look forward to meeting you in person and answering your questions. But until then, I'll see you next video, or you'll hear me next video.